Y'all, there was a point in my life where I was so miserable. When I say miserable, I mean nothing made me happy. No kids, no husband, no house, no food. Like literally nothing made me happen. I was constantly going through the motions of life. I was constantly having so many mood swings. One day I'm mad, one day I'm happy, one day I'm sad. One day I just want to get off this earth. But let me tell you what God did. First of all, let me just say how mighty God is, and let me just say how graceful and merciful God is, because there was a point in my life where I began to lean on law of attraction. If you don't know what it is, just look it up. But it's not of God, okay? Don't go practicing it. It is not of God. It's by the enemy. So don't go doing it. But I was so desperate to be happy. I was so desperate to try to solve all my problems that I leaned on something that was not of God. Now, mind you, during this time, I also I still acknowledge God, but I also was acknowledging the universe as if God didn't create the universe. So I was like, thank you, God, thank you, universe. And of course, I was doing things that the law of attraction says to do, meditate, and all that other, extra stuff. Now, I didn't get too deep into it, but I was in it enough to say that it didn't do anything for me, y'all. Like, it didn't do nothing for me. Nada, nothing, okay? But the moment I decided to give my life to Christ is the moment everything started to change for me. Like, when I tell you God showed up for me in ways that I would never have expected, he showed up for me. Granted, I wasn't even when I was going through what I was going through, my first thought never was God. It never was Jesus. It was always, what can I do? I was literally leaning on my own strength to try and solve problems that I had no business trying to solve. And every time I did that, I just exhausted myself more and more and more, to the point where I just got tired. Like, I was crying, I was yelling out. I was going through so many different emotions, and I literally couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Like, I was literally trying to diagnose myself, because that's how bad I was going through so much. And then when I gave my life to Christ, it was like a light bulb went off in my mind, went off in my head, went off in my body. Like, everything started to change for me. My mindset started to change. My spiritual eyes started to open. When I started getting into my Bible, I started to understand God more. I started praying. When I started praying, God started communicating with me. Like, everything in me changed, eternally and externally. Like, God is a graceful God and a merciful God. Like, literally, God showed up in my life at a time where I didn't even acknowledge him. Like, I always knew of God, so I never not believed in God, but it was just a period in my life where I just didn't care for God, if that makes sense. Like, I really wasn't like searching for God, trying to have a relationship with God. I just would say thank you, God, but I was not like trying to have a relationship, if that makes sense. And when I started really leaning on God, when I started understanding God, when I started understanding why I went through what I went through, I just like literally, I would cry. I would listen to my worship music, writing in my journal, talking to God, and I would literally break down crying. And I still do it today, like, break down crying. And it's not because like I'm sad or anything. It's because I'm so grateful and blessed of how God just accepted me for who I was. He accepted me with all my baggage. He accepted me even when I didn't accept him. He still accepted me. And I just wanted to remind you all, don't let whatever it is that you're going through make you believe that that God can't redeem you or God can't restore you. Like, I was a wrecking ball. When I say wrecking ball, like, I literally was somebody I didn't even recognize. Like, I was not myself. Like, it was almost like I had two personalities. Like, I was bipolar. And no, I'm not bipolar, but that's how it felt when I would constantly wake up every day and just go through the motions of life, you know, not praying, not reading my Bible, not talking to God. Like when I just literally woke up every day, got dressed, brushed my teeth, washed my face, like when I just did that without God in my daily routine, like I constantly felt attacked. Like I constantly went through so many different emotions, and sometimes I didn't even know where the sadness came from, where the anger came from. They literally just kind of just came. And you know, once I actually started, you know, talking to God and, you know, having a relationship with God, that's when everything just changed for me. Like God literally brought the light back into my life. And I just want to thank God, because if it was not for God, I wouldn't be sitting here recording this video. If it was not for God, I would not have any peace, no joy. I would not be striving to live a righteous life. Like, I would literally still be miserable. I wouldn't even be here in this car that I'm in if it had not been for God. And I just want to encourage you all to continue on this journey that God has placed you on, because once God delivers you out of whatever it is that he delivered you from, he will continue to restore you. He will continue to fight for you. He will continue to give you and supply you with everything that you need in order to be of sober mind, in order to continue to live a righteous life, in order to continue to have faith. Like literally, God will do it for you, but you have to allow him to do it. And you have to acknowledge God. Like that's the first step, acknowledging God, letting God know you can't do this. You want him to intervene, and he will begin to do just that. You know, nothing happens overnight, but if you give your life to Christ and you continue to trust in God, he's going to continue to move on your behalf. But it's a two-way street, y'all. You got to constantly stay in your word. You got to constantly have conversations with God. You got to constantly believe in God. You got to do the work, because faith without work is dead, and work without faith is dead. So you have to, you know, you and God have to be hand in hand, neck and neck. Like you got to do the work. And I'm doing, and I'm talking to myself when I say this too, because I have my moments where I'm just like, oh, again, another attack, another this, another that. But I also remind myself that God is still with me. He would never leave me nor forsaken me, and everything that I'm going through is just a part of my testimony. So don't let nothing discourage you on this journey. If you have made the decision to give your life to Christ and live for Christ, keep going, keep having faith. Don't allow anything in your circumstances make you believe that God can't do whatever it is that you're asking him to do. Like literally, that's all y'all hear me say. God can do it, because literally God can do it. And I'm living proof of that. You know, I'm not perfect. I still have my flaws, still have things I need to work on, but the biggest part is over. The miserable part that kept me in living a life that I did, that part is over. Now I'm just like, you know, just trying to keep it up, you know, trying to stay righteous, you know. So just keep moving forward. Don't move back. God is with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. And listen, God is unlimited. So stop limiting God.